Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of our discussion on intergenerational trauma with Dr. Nadia Huq. We hope you all find this episode insightful and helpful.
So, what role does stigma play when accessing care? So I was just going to say quickly how I think it's pretty evident within the Muslim community that maybe mental health might be associated with some fear or some embarrassment. Some people kind of view mental disorders as like a test from God, where you're just meant to kind of just ignore it, face it. But I think it's important to kind of not be ashamed of, the tests that God puts you through. And to kind of, like try face them, try to help yourself get through them as best as you can. But like Nadia, what do you kind of see within your community?
Yeah, so I think that is one of the most challenging, right? The stigma. I think South Asian community, Muslim community, and I think I don't know, all the details obviously of where it stems from, but I think a big part of it is people wanting to, on a couple things, I think people wanting to protect their family name and not wanting to, make any, they don't want people talking about the family. Like there's a lot of emphasis put on like reputation. So I think that's one piece. And I think the other piece is that religious piece where people are like, well, just pray about it and you'll feel better, right? And, things like that, which prayer is a great coping skill. I say that to a lot of my families. So there is stigma. What I've noticed though, I do see it changing, which is good. I think that over the last even just few years, I myself have seen people more open, our communities more open. My own, South Florida community where I grew up is talking about mental health more now. There was a seminar that I spoke at a couple back in May. It was the first ever really full-on organized like kind of seminar about mental health in my, Bangladeshi American community. And as a child, I never would have thought that that day would happen where there was a whole event and like hundreds of people for our community showed up. So, I think there is some progress. One thing that I also like to, tell people is that working, really, first of all, thinking about mind body connection and your mind and body as one, right? So if you have diabetes, you take your insulin, you have asthma, you take your asthma pump, right? Or whatever you need. And mental health is the same way, right? If you're feeling nervous, do something about that, right? If you're feeling sad, do something about that. So really trying to help people see the connection between all of the, that our whole body, is kind of connected in that way. And then in the religious community, one thing that I really am hopeful for and is helping people to understand that seeking support or seeking help does not mean that you are like giving up on God or something like, right? Both can be true. You can be completely and, fiercely, loyal to the religion and a big believer, and also get support, right? And so these things, I like how you mentioned that mental health, lots of people conceptualize it in at least the religious community as different tests, that Allah is putting your way. And therapy can be a way to work through that, right? Test. It doesn't have to be that you have to just like do it on your own. I think seeking support is really important and that helps you be the healthiest version of yourself. So, uh, it's there. I do see it getting better. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that mental health is associated with like, oh, you're not kind of having firm belief in God, but like you said, that's not necessarily true. And I think it's important to keep in mind that Allah would want us to kind of take care of our minds, our bodies. He wants what's best for us always. And I guess that just shows how important it is to kind of, address it, talk about it. And I think the more you talk about it, like that event that you mentioned, the more awareness there is, the more you realize, oh, actually, there's a lot of people that kind of go through the same difficulty. So it's okay to talk about it.
Right.
And it's okay to get support. and that you don't have to do everything by yourself.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, what happens is also that I like to tell people that, getting the support you need is really going to help you, again, be the best version of yourself. It's going to help you be the best parent you can be, the best mother you can be, the best daughter, or son, or friend, all these things, and the best Muslim you can be, right? To have, uh, really being intentional about taking care of mind, body, and all of that. So, I'm hopeful that people will slowly be more open and willing to get support. And of course, you could turn to your family first. And I think it doesn't mean it has to all be like separate. It could kind of be together, working with your family, working with a therapist, increasing your own spirituality, how much you pray, whatever it takes. I think uh, it's important to do all the things, not just focus on one.
Yeah, I think it's just about starting that conversation, isn't it? Which can be quite scary. But
Mhm.
once you get, over that step, that big hurdle, then yeah, slowly everything will kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add as well, like the Quran does tell us to kind of not think negatively, not to kind of dwell on things, and not to feel sad. And I think that just shows how it's important to kind of, yeah, change our mindset. It encourages us to kind of, like Islam encourages us to kind of think positively, to focus on what we're grateful for as well.
And I
Yeah,
think that actually speaks to one of the crux of like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And when you're kind of restructuring or, you're kind of changing the way you think about something. And I think that is a big piece of it all, right? So if you think about something negatively and you can like that's not helpful to you. So how can we turn it around and think about it in a way that's more helpful, right? That will then make you feel better, right? So that's like directly a big part of one of our major interventions that we provide. And it's about the way we think.
yeah. And we were just like in our previous episode, we were speaking about how like you said, it's a core part of the CBT principles and just thinking differently and how you can use that to kind of alleviate like your low mood, anxiety, or whatever it is, and how that kind of ties in with everything that we've learned in Islam as well, and just like and viewing everything as like as holistic as possible, I guess. So it's not one thing or the other, it's just everything in unison is what helps you best. So that's like a
Right. And
yeah.
I think there's a lot of things built into Islam. And I tell my mother this. She's gonna get so mad because I keep talking about her in the podcast that I do. But I'll tell my mom, okay, mom, you're feeling nervous about this. When you go do your namaz or when you do your prayer, like make sure you're being really mindful. Don't let your mind be racing about all your to-do list and the things you have to do. Like I want you to really like hear the words, like you're saying, I want you to do your prayer slowly and be mindful and be intentional, right? And I was like, those are 5 parts of the day that are built in mindfulness. I need you to like, you know, really like sit with it. And so we'll kind of like, I'll tell her things like that, right? To link this idea of mindfulness with prayer. And so, yes, I think there are a lot of ways that we can talk about the relation between the two, right? It doesn't have to be that therapy is totally different from religion. There are a lot of things in the religion that have such a therapeutic, effect if you do them.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just using what you have and knowing how to use it best. I
Mhm.
think that is like a lot of people
Yeah.
may not know, or may not be aware of how to use it best. So I think your mom is very lucky that to have you to tell her.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Or even think of things like, Friday Juma prayers, right? Like the importance of like being around other people and social and doing something as a community, like my father-in-law goes to Juma prayer every week and he's kind of a shy, introverted man, but like every week he'll, go. And how great is it to like, and he's retired to be able to go and be around community, socialize, because we know social relationships are a very important part of having, just good mental health, even just when people are older, maintaining social relationships can reduce risk of Alzheimer's and things like that, dementia. So how beautiful that that is something that can be incorporated, and think about it as also good for mind, body, and soul, right?
Yeah, awesome. And I think just another point I wanted to add is I think people might also not access care, as they may think that a non-Muslim mental health professional might undermine their Islamic beliefs during therapy. And I guess that just kind of emphasizes the importance of culturally sensitive care.
Yeah. And what I will say to that is, on a practical note, sometimes it does take a few tries to find someone who's a good fit for you, right? And not for anyone who's listening, if you had one bad experience with a provider or a couple, not to give up, because it is about, the connection you feel with someone, and it may take a few tries to find someone that you click with. What I will say, most of the folks that I work with, and there is a big push for people to be, have cultural humility, what we say, and just be mindful. So I do think there are a lot of providers now, no matter what their race, religion, ethnicity, that are able to provide good, effective care. And if it's really important to someone, to find someone who identifies as you, whether it be religiously or culturally, to, do the research, find that person. Anyone can feel free to reach out to me. You guys have my contact information. I'm obviously in the US, and so I don't know so much about providers in the UK, but I think that doing a little bit of that research to find what will be a good fit for you, and to not give up, because it's there, it's out there.
Yeah,
Just
definitely. And I feel like within my service, it is something that we try to do a bit more. So kind of just asking clients what their preference is and making a note of that, and trying our best to kind of provide that for them if they kind of want a therapist from a specific background, specific religion. I think it's really important to consider that. Absolutely.
Great. And this sounds like a good time for a quote. We usually have a quote that Aisha does every episode. So do you want to go ahead, Aisha, with the honors?
Thank you. So this quote is from Healing the Emptiness, which is a book by Yasmin Mogahed. So just as we were sent on this worldly journey with the capacity to fall, we were also given the capacity to rise. Just as we would bleed, we would also heal. We will be designed with the divine capacity to cope, to survive, to even thrive through the storms. Each and every one of us will be given the God-given potential to see through the darkness, to rise through the cold, to break again and again, and to heal again and again, and then to be even more beautiful at the broken parts. And I guess the takeaway from that is, just like we've kind of spoken already, we have all been given these tools to kind of help ourselves, and we should just kind of make use of them. Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
That's a
Thank
lovely quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of kintsugi, which is like an art form, like a Japanese art form where they kind of break like these ceramic artwork and then bind it together with gold so it looks even more beautiful. So the concept that things can be broken, and when they bind together back again, it's even better than it was before. It's a way, I think, to look at stuff.
You're nice, yeah. Cool. And finally, we're coming towards the end of the episode. So Nadia, what is one piece of advice you would like to share with our listeners, parents, young people within the South Asian community who may have been exposed to such trauma?
One piece of advice, so it may be a little bit more than one, but what I will say is, first and foremost, definitely seek support. Find that person, that friend, or that cousin, or your sibling, whomever you can talk to, if that's like, the first easiest step for you. And then, professional support if you need it. But so that's kind of more on a practical note. But what I would say to, young folks that maybe identify, as South Asian or Muslim, or have this kind of acculturation and conflict, intergenerational conflict with their parents, is to not not blame oneself, not blame your parents, have grace for everyone that's involved, have grace for your parents and the generations before, have grace for yourself as you navigate all the complexities of the world, and just have some grace and focus on healing. And yeah, I think that being kind to ourselves and folks before us and generations before us, I think is really important. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a really nice piece of advice. I think really needed. So thank you for that, because I feel like people really do take a lot upon themselves. So just to like take it easy, and things take
Yeah.
time, and look after yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I think that's all the questions we had for today for you. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or any last minute comments or anything?
No, I mean, thank you for having me. I think I'm so inspired when I see people doing podcasts and really also on this mission to spread awareness. I feel so passionate about people taking care of their minds and bodies and souls, and I love that you both are created this platform. So yes, I think everyone just keep doing the work and spread awareness, and we all can play a role in reducing the stigma uh, that exists. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here
Of
today,
course.
from the bottom of our hearts, honestly. And you shared a lot of invaluable lessons for us and for our listeners to learn and take forward, and a lot to think about. So thank you so much for that.
Of course. And we'll stay in touch. You can call me anytime.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like it's like, I know we're doing this for like our listeners and
Yes.
for the community, but it's just so nice for us as well. Like just hearing and having this conversation with you has been really insightful. And yeah, inshallah to kind of, working together again soon.
Yes, anytime. If
Yeah.
you're in New York, come visit. If you're in New York, New Jersey,
Yeah.
And
anytime,
likewise,
come
you
on.
make a trip to London.
Yes, I was actually just there, and my husband ran the London Marathon. What month was that? March.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were in London, but I have a lot of family there. So inshallah, next time I visit, I have two new friends to check in with when I'm there.
Yeah, that would be great to catch up.
Yes.
But yeah, so we hope that our listeners gain something valuable after today. And Nadia, we wish you the best of everything in the future, and hopefully one day we will be able to kind of help the community like you do.
Yes, inshallah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, that's all for today, folks. As usual, thank you for joining in, and we look forward to knowing how you found this episode. If you have any takeaways, anything, let us know. And yeah, until next time.
Assalamualaikum.